Hey everyone, Maxwell Ventura, realtor with Douglas Elliman, and today, since we are at the top of the market in Q4 2021, making it a great time to sell, and if you are looking to take advantage of the equity that you've built up, but you don't want to necessarily pay taxes on some or all of it, defer to kick that can down the road, it's a great time to revisit 1031 exchanges. So 1031 allows investors to defer the tax liability of the sale of an investment property by using the sales proceeds to acquire the next property. Now, when you sell, there's two different taxes that you need to be aware of. First is capital gains tax, which can be short-term, it can be long-term if you've owned the property for over a year. But essentially, if you sell the property for any more than what you paid for it, that's a capital gain. So there is such thing as a capital gains tax. And number two is the depreciation recapture tax, which essentially says if you have claimed depreciation as a deduction year over year, you are eventually going to get taxed on that as well. So the 1031 is a way to defer both of those taxes. Now, you can't exactly complete a 1031 exchange on your own. The IRS requires that you use the aid of an impartial third party to set up the account. This is known as an exchange facilitator, such as a qualified intermediary. So what they'll do is they will hold the exchange funds in a deferred exchange account, and this all falls under the terms of the escrow agreement. So we're going to dive into the 8 steps of your most common 1031 exchange, and I'm also going to get into some San Diego specific strategies when thinking about where you want your replacement property to be. Now, before jumping into the 8 steps, it's important. There's 3 people that you need to know. One is a realtor that is familiar with the 1031 timeline, because there are thresholds that you need to meet, and if you don't, then all of this will be for nothing. 2 is going to be a CPA or tax attorney. 1031s have a fair amount of gray areas, and there's also different types of 1031, so certainly get with your tax advisor. And then 3 is the qualified intermediary or the exchange facilitator. So it's those 3. Okay, so moving right along, step number 1, pretty self-explanatory, but you're going to sell your property. As soon as you sell and close escrow, that's really when the timeline starts. Number 2 is to give the capital gains to your qualified intermediary. 3 is identify your like-kind replacement property within 45 days. This is the toughest part. This is the choke point or the bottleneck of the entire process. And this is where most of them fail if you're unable to identify and at least get into escrow on that replacement property. So this is again where working with a great team is going to be able to help you do that with no trouble. And then number 4 is to give the duty letter to the qualified intermediary explaining what the next steps are. Okay, step 5, negotiate. Now it's time to go after that replacement property. So you'll submit your offer. There may be some negotiation back and forth. You are certainly going to want to write your offer as clean as possible, not to take any chances. So not only just price point, but really clean terms that may require removing some contingencies or putting in some additional clauses there. Step number 6 is going to be agree on a sales price. Get your offer accepted, get into escrow. And then step number 7 is wire the capital gains to the title holder after you're in escrow. And then finally, number 8 is fill out Form 8824. But again, this will all be handled appropriately with your team, your realtor. It's going to help you through the process, the timeline, your CPA accountant or tax attorney, and then finally your exchange facilitator or qualified intermediary. So now let's get into some tips specifically for San Diego. So for some San Diego specific strategies, I mean, it really comes down to getting in the right neighborhood. You know, knowing where the opportunity zones are, where the promise zones are, transit priority areas, if you're within complete communities, how many units can you build on the lot? Are there plays for not only small value adds, but big value adds, adding multiple units? Are they familiar with the zoning, right? And then just the areas in general, are they turning over right now? Your 1031 play is typically, you're going to hold, right, for a number of years. after you acquire the property, because you have to let it cash flow now, take advantage of all of that tax that you just deferred, and let the property appreciate over time so that you can rinse and repeat and continue to kick the tax can down the road. So some great areas specific for San Diego. I'll just rattle off a few, right? We've got Sherman Heights, Grant Hill, Stockton, Barrio Logan, Logan Heights, City Heights, Claremont, Linda Vista, South Crest, Shelltown, and then continuing to push out further east. And there's really a bunch more, but you want to get, again, I'll say it till I'm dead in the face, but a great realtor, at least someone that can advise you on some of these locations. Maybe where upcoming development properties and projects are scheduled over the next 5-10 years. San Diego City has a ton of them. So that's all going to lead to growth and turnover as well. If you have any questions about the 1031 exchange, buying, selling, investing, feel free to reach out. Hope this was of some value, and I'll see you all on the next video.